We are going to be looking at section 3.1.2. So your classwork assignment today is going to be problems 13 through 15. So this is just a little introduction to the classwork and some vocabulary review. So the first question of the classwork is going to kind of take us back to Algebra 1. That concept of, is the quantity of x plus y squared equal to x squared plus y squared? So hopefully we all can answer that. And then they're going to talk about, well, what are different ways that we can prove that that is or is not true? Problem 14 is then going to go into area model. So this is what I wanted to review. So an area model is a model that is used to help us multiply polynomials and then also help us factor polynomials. So we are going to look at multiplying 4x minus 1 times x plus 3. So what I would do is, because this is a binomial times a binomial, so 2 terms times 2 terms, I set up a 2 by 2 box. And then you use this to find the area, right? So 4x times x would be 4x squared. In the next box, you would do negative 1 times x, which is negative x. In the next box, 4x times 3, which is 12x. And then 3 times negative 1, which is negative 3. Then you would combine all of this. So 4x squared plus 11x minus 3. So what they will refer to in the book a lot is they are going to keep saying that this is the product and this is the sum. So they might say rewrite the product as a sum or rewrite the sum as a product. So in this case, they would say rewrite the product as the sum. Now we're going to look at an example where we rewrite the sum as the product. So some of you know how to do this. It's essentially just factoring, right? But some of us haven't learned using the box. I've taught you guys a couple times, but I know some people have their own methods, but it is pretty cool to see how it works. So what we want to do is, well, where do we put these terms in the box? Where do they fit? So I'm going to look at the last problem to kind of help us see where they go. So for example, looking at the last problem, if this was our sum, I noticed that the first term goes in the first box. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. So I know that that first term will go here. I also noticed that the last term went in the last box. So I'm going to go ahead and put our last term of negative 5. Now I need to figure out, well, what about the other boxes? Like, where is that coming from? So 12x and negative x, I do notice that those add up to 11x. But then I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of numbers that I can say add up to 11x. So then what would be the pattern? Well, they actually, if you look at the diagonals of the box, they have the same product. So for example, 4x squared times negative 3 has a product of negative 12x squared, and 12x times negative x also has a product of negative 12x squared. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to come up with numbers that add to 11x but have a product of negative 12x squared. So in this case, I'm going to apply that here. I need two numbers that add to negative 9x, and their product, if I were to multiply these together, has to be negative 10x squared. So that's why sometimes you'll see people do this x. It's just a way to help organize your thoughts. So I know that the product is negative 10x squared, but they have to add to negative 9x. So I need two numbers that multiply to negative 10, but add to negative 9, and that would be negative 10x and x. And then I would fill those into the boxes. And then from there, you're just coming up with the edges of the box, the dimensions in this case, because we already have the area, so now we need the dimensions. So to get those, it's common sense in a way, but you can also think of it as the greatest common factor of each row and column. So for example, this column right here, or this row, I should say, it would be 2x is the greatest common factor. And then once you have that first one, you can just use that to come up with the other ones. For example, 2x times what gives me x squared? Well, that's x. 2x times what gives me negative 10x? That's negative 5. X times what gives me x? And that's 1. So that means our product is just x minus 5 times 2x plus 1. And then our sum would be 2x squared minus 9x minus 5. So this is kind of what they're trying to get you to understand in 14. And then just looking at problem 15, it's then just practicing this, right? So they give you some sums, some products, and they want you to write it in the other form. So this just gives you a little overview of what this section will be about. And then tomorrow or the next day in class, we will finish the section.